Hello, hello, welcome in, and thank you so much for joining me. We are going to go through the new home contract completed construction promulgated form by TREC, the most updated version. It is now August of 2026. These documents were released to the public back in May. I'm going to share my screen with you. They were released to the public back in May for public comment so that everybody could see these are the changes that we are wanting to make and all of the great things that we are doing and changing in the Texas real estate market. And came July 1st, 2026, when now these documents are mandatory use. So making sure you know why we are using this form, how to use this form, what other addenda might be attached to this is going to be pertinent to your real estate career. So I'm just going to breeze through most of this. It is very similar to your one to four family contract with just a few changes, and I will highlight those changes. I will still do a brief overview or high level overview of what goes in each paragraph so that you know what is expected of you. But again, just the super detailed deep dive, I'm not going to do. It's just a high level overview, but I will get to all the paragraphs. Okay. All right. So let's do this. So first things first. You know that you're using the right contract because of the date at the top right corner. Anything that's predated May 4th of 2026 is the wrong document. You cannot use any previous documents just because that is what you have saved or what you have in your situation. You cannot do that. We must use the most updated versions. It is a TREC mandate to always use the newest version. The parties have not changed. Everything that is the same, I'm going to highlight in green. Everything that is different, we will do something in another color. So your parties have not changed. Who is the buyer? Who is the seller? Putting their legal government names that are on driver's licenses, or if it is a business or corporation that you are doing a contract for, knowing what's actually written on the EIN or what they're doing business as name is, things like that. That's what you want to make sure that you're properly listing here. The property has not changed. What is the lot, the block, the legal description? What city is this property in the county? Everything is in Texas. This is a Texas contract. And then what is the address for this deal? Please remember that the legal description and the address or what the property is known as are not the same thing. And they will not even be remotely close to the same thing. Your legal description is like your thumbprint. No one has the same print as your finger, even if you're a twin. No one has the same print as your finger, but the address might be the same, like a twin. The faces might be the same, but the fingerprints will always be different. Your legal description will always be different on every property. Even if you have something as simple as 123 Easy Street or another property that's 12 Easy Drive, 123 Easy Road, 123 Easy Avenue, 123 Easy Circle, 123 Easy Court, all of them sound very similar, but they take you to different areas and they all have a different legal. Okay, so you always make sure you have your legal description. The sales price has not changed. A plus B equals C. The down payment amount plus the loan amount equals the price that you are offering. So if you are offering 100,000, the down payment is 3.5%, so $3,500. The loan amount would be the other 96,500, and then your sales price would be the $100,000 of what you're offering. Okay, if it's a conventional loan, we're putting down 20%, so that's 20,000 plus 80,000 is the same 100,000. Or what if it's cash? Then we're just putting 100,000 as the cash portion, $0 in the loan amount, 100 plus 0 is still 100. Okay. Our leases are not any different than anything else either. This has not changed. When the offer was submitted and when the contract was executed, was there a current residential fixture or natural resource lease? It has nothing to do with is the ring doorbell going to be taken off at closing or before closing or anything like that? That's not relevant. All that matters is when I put in the offer, are any of these three things true? Is this lease intact? Yes or no? Okay. What's happening with that lease after closing or during closing or anything like that? That is discussed in the addendum that gets added after checking one of these boxes. But again, nothing has changed here. Nothing has changed with our earnest money either. Who is collecting the earnest and option money? Where is the money being delivered? How much money? And then how long is your option period? None of those things have changed. Nothing has changed as far as our title policy either with paragraph 6. Who is paying for it? And then which title company is issuing the policy? Are we wanting any shortages? Yes or no? And then if it is a yes, who's paying for it? Shortages are going to be shortages from that title. I'm sorry, from your survey. So if you have a cash deal that does not need a survey, then that means nothing is going to be amended because there is no survey that will have the shortages reflected on it. Or if you have a deal with shortages because there is a survey, meaning the property is around the full 12 by 12 box, right? But the property has a fence inside the survey, there's a shortage because outside the fence is still part of that survey. So that would be a shortage. Okay. So we want to discuss if we want the shortages read in our title policy, yes or no, and then who's going to pay for those shortages if that is the case. Our survey questions, again, nothing has changed here either. Is the seller providing an existing survey? And if it is accepted, then great. If it's not, who's going to buy it? Is the buyer buying a new one? Is the seller buying a new one? What are our objections? None of this has changed, which is why I'm breezing through it really fast. Our title notices, none of this has changed. Is the property in or not in an HOA? Do we have statutory tax districts or anything else listed here? If we do, we need to add those notices to the contract or the addendum that's relevant to these notices. Our property condition is where we're going to start seeing the change. Okay. Not too many changes, but we are going to see changes here. So the first thing that we notice is, are you taking the property as is or not? This has not changed. This is something that we see in all of our contracts. Are you taking the property, yes or no? But right under this section in all the other contracts, we are now talking about residential service contracts and such, or environmental tests and things like that. That is going to change. Notice like that's all still down here. But what comes up first before we get that, this is the change, is we've now added a discussion about warranties and the installation of the home. Now, here's the deal. With the installation, you as the buyer agent, you are asking the listing agent for this information so that you can fill it in. Or the over-the-top listing agents, the contract is put into the transaction desk with this filled out and nothing else so that they can finish the rest of their offer. That way they don't have to ask you, you have provided it. Or you have MLS offer instructions in your transaction desk with this information in it so that the buyer agent can then just copy paste. However you want to do it, I think is fine, totally fine with me. What I would not recommend, but I'm not an attorney, so do whatever your attorney tells you to do. But what I would recommend, or what I would not recommend, I apologize, is for you to fill out an offer with this left blank and then you just wait for them to fill it out. What if you don't like what they filled out? Your buyer has already signed, and now the seller is executed. You don't like what you see there, and you've wasted their option money because they can still get out of the contract, but they're at the cost of their option money. So I would either get this information beforehand, or I would mark box one as shown in attached instructions or specifications. That way, the listing agent is now providing an additional document to attach to the contract with this in it versus writing in this section here. Okay. The rest of this is the same. Like I said, we were talking about environmental matters and the residential service contract or your home warranties. This is all the same. None of this has changed. But this part right here is also different. We have a seller's disclosure here. Now, in our resale contract, we have the seller's disclosure notice where we're discussing if there's any roof issues, if there are any pest control issues, if the microwave is there, if the water heater is working, AC is working. Here, it's a new construction house, brand new construction. So the only thing that is expected is for the seller to disclose about the land. Do you know if there's any flooding? Is this home in any type of flood zone? Is it in a flood plain? Is this by a dump site? Is there a landfill by? Underground tanks? Those are the questions that we need to disclose at this point because with it being a new construction home, the first owner is the one that would fill out a sales disclosure notice later when they decide to sell. But a builder is only required to fill out this as their seller's disclosure notice as far as the information needed. This is the statute and this is what's required. We do not need to ask those other questions because there are warranties involved, as we discussed earlier in paragraph 7. There are warranties involved. There are home warranties that can take over when you're the first owner. Excuse me. Now the rest of this has not changed except for I'm sorry, right here. This is another new change. We're talking about our groundwater here, groundwater and surface rights. Where this home was built, are there any aquifers? Are there any wells? Is there any water rights that need to be discussed in the addendum and discussed as far as transferring those water rights, some or all of them, or none of them? That is all discussed here. And I have more information that really breaks down our water rights in another video. Just look through the playlist and you should be able to find that. The broker disclosure, who's related or which broker on either side is attached to this contract as far as a party. The closing date, none of this has changed. All of this is the same here and here. We're going to see the same here in possession. Is it at closing and funding? Same there in special provisions. Our settlement and everything. This is another big change that we have in these new contracts. What we have first is we have that the seller expenses are listed here. The very first seller expense and only seller expense that we discuss in this section are the seller's concessions right here. How much cash is the seller going to contribute towards the buyer's expenses? And now you're asking yourself, well, what are the buying expenses? They're right here. The following are buyer expenses, and it's everything listed in this section here. All of these are buyer expenses. Okay. So now the seller concessions can be contributed to the buyer expenses, but also we have to discuss the brokerage expenses, all the brokerage compensation. We have two options here. Is the seller contributing to the buyer broker, or is the buyer contributing to the listing broker? We are using this now because we no longer need to address our compensation down here. Under our broker contact information, we used to have a section here that discussed all of this, that the listing agent was going to provide X amount of dollars to that buyer broker, but we are not doing that anymore, which means that your listing agreement is no longer talking about joint compensation or cooperating broker compensation either. You do not see that talked about in your listing agreement. There's no compensation between brokers any longer. All of the compensation is now going to be discussed here, but it should still match what is discussed in your buyer rep agreement and or the listing agreement. Okay. Besides that, the only other two changes that you see here are going to be in our notices. They specifically want us to provide the buyer and listing clients information. We need to know this information here. And then we just CC everybody as the buyer agent and the listing agent. This information is extremely important because the title company comes here first. They have to send out welcome packets. They have to let everybody know that the contract has been received, what documents or addenda are being received throughout the phases of the contracts. All of that has to be emailed out to everybody. We might need to call and ask questions about title, Schedule Cs, things like that. We can't do that, and the title companies cannot do that if we don't have everybody's contact information. So please put this information out there. Your title companies will thank you later. The only other section that has changed, it's not necessarily information that changed, but more like the way it's listed has been changed. We have all of our addenda and notices here. And what we've done, or what TREC has done, is they have organized it very neatly for you. So if you're trying to figure out, I need to add a financial addendum, here are all of the financial addenda for you, so you can pick the one that you need. If you're looking for the addenda that are related to leases, they've organized them for you. Even all of the additional disclosures and notices, they have organized it for you. So now there's no searching of the documents. I don't know what document I need and I'm not sure what I need. They listed the majority of the ones that are used the most often for you, just to make it cleaner and a little easier to read. Okay. The final thing that I really want to reiterate, is the fact that this is for a new home, specifically completed construction. Okay. New homes, completed construction. There's no such thing as a resale new home. Okay. That's not a thing. Um, if it's a new home, then the construction was either just complete or it's about to be completed. It's one or the two. That means an owner, a person, does not own it, did not live in it, did not occupy first. If you own it, occupy, live in it, then now you're using the resale contract. So I'm going to be very clear and even give you this. Let's just say 123 Easy Street was built by one ABC builder. I purchased the home. I'm going to use it as my homestead. And right before I open the door with my key, I get a call from my job that says, "Oh, you're moving to California. No Texas for you." I've never occupied that property. It was owned by me though, but I never occupied it. So, do I use the new home contract completed construction or not? No. It was owned by someone else, the builder or whoever the seller is, as far as builders go. That is the person that uses this contract. And that when I bought the home originally, even before my job change, right, I got the home on this contract. But once I sell it, even though I've never occupied it, it is still considered a resale. And I need to use the resale contract, the one, the four family. So just making sure we understand when to use this document. As far as the completed versus incompleted, do not let the other agent in the deal not bully you, but just move you around in a space that you don't want to be in. Understand that completed literally means completed. Completed means the doorknobs are in, the door stoppers are in. We are past the punch list. It is literally finished. We've done the final clean. You've gotten the certificate of occupancy from the city. It is completed. But sometimes you'll run into the agent that says, well, the home is pretty much completed. We only need to add door stoppers. Use the other contract. No, we're going to use the completed contract after the door stoppers are in, or I'm going to use the incompleted contract. There are no door stoppers. There is no glass. There are no mirrors. There are no windows. There's whatever it is. It could miss literally one item on that checklist and it's not completed. Make sure you are using the right document. I really hope that all of this information helps you as you navigate your real estate life and your careers. If you need anything else, you know where to find me. Have a good one.